Hi, everyone around the whole world, and thank you so much for getting my Earthfiles YouTube channel to 170,000 subscribers this week. For those here tonight who haven't clicked on the red subscription button on the lower right of your screen, please do it now. It doesn't cost anything, and it helps Earthfiles to keep growing. Thank you so much around the world. I love hearing from everybody in so many different countries now. And a couple of weeks ago, I reported about residents in two different parts of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, reporting, quote, extremely loud metallic sounds, like a combination of rushing, grinding, and reverberations, close quote. Now, both coming from clear skies in Phoenixville and Swarthmore, about 25 miles apart. And then on Friday, April 2nd, at my science environment and Real X-Files news website, earthfiles.com, I posted this mysterious shaking booms in southeastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, with a Twitter quote, "Felt it on Martha's Vineyard. A rumbling, then a jolt. A second rumbling a few minutes later from Whitney Daily." At least 100 reports erupted in social media near 10 a.m. Eastern from people in Connecticut, Rhode Island, southeastern Massachusetts near Boston, and Martha's Vineyard on April 2nd, 2021. Houses and grounds shook, but the U.S. Geological Survey reported their seismometers did not show any earthquake data, and that puzzled everyone. And then, this past Easter weekend, I received more reports about strange sounds, including a cell phone recording that I'm going to share with you tonight. First, on Saturday, April 3rd, 2021, came an email from a Toronto, Canada suburb called Mississauga, quote, from Robin, boom noises, April 3rd, 2021, quote, "My jaw dropped when I read your story about booming noises in New England yesterday. I live in Canada in a Toronto suburb called Mississauga, 1 kilometer south of the University of Toronto Arundel campus. Good Friday morning, April 2nd, roughly between 10:30 to 11 a.m., friends and neighbors started to send messages on social media about a loud boom, and houses shook. People thought there was an explosion. A very big area of people within maybe 7 kilometers felt it and heard it, but nothing on the news. Very strange. Love your work and always look forward to Wednesdays. We may not solve the mystery, but the more data we collect, the more we might learn. Thanks for all you do," signed Robin. And I return the thank you to you, Robin, for your valuable email news. And then the next was, I also heard on Good Friday, April 2nd, 2021, between 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, that there were highly strange metallic scraping sounds in Framingham, Massachusetts, near Boston, about 530 miles southeast of Toronto and Mississauga, Canada. This emailer wrote, quote, "I am from Boston, Mass., and something woke us up this morning, April 2nd, to these weird sounds. My name is Linda Oppelt, and I watch your Wednesday night shows," close quote. And I am going to share with you now the strange metallic sound that Linda Oppelt recorded. And if any of you watching tonight have heard anything like this, please email me at earthfiles@earthfiles.com.
Linda, I know this is not a video that you can look at, but listen to the noise. What is that? I'm outside of Boston, Massachusetts.
So we're living on the 5th floor, and I have in my living room the sliding doors that go out to a balcony that look over onto nothing, really. It's just, there's a couple of banks, and they were doing construction about a month ago. They built a CVS store, but they're getting ready to open it now. So all of a sudden, we were sitting watching TV with the slider door open. The noise was so loud that my boyfriend had to shut the slider, and he said, "My God, what is that?" I said, "I got to get the camera." And I thought of you right away because that noise sounded like the noise I hear on your programs.
The strange metallic sound.
Yes. It's like metal on metal, and it was so loud here. And he took a little video and put it on Facebook. I took my video. You heard me say, "Linda,"
Yes.
That was to you, you know. But I was afraid it was going to stop, so I was hurrying, and the noise is there.
It runs only 33 seconds. Do you have a longer piece of the sound?
No, I gave you the whole thing, and he taped too, and his is even less, I think.
How much longer after you stopped did that sound continue?
About maybe 10 or 15 more seconds, and it stopped. And then it came on again, but only for a few seconds and then stopped.
Did either of you try to go outside?
Oh, yeah. I took the video from the sliding glass door. You can probably see the screen.
Right.
But then I went outside after I shot the video. I looked around. There's nothing. To the left, to the right, up, down, nothing. During your shows lately, you've been talking a lot about things that are going on, maybe underground.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that must be where they're coming from. You know, around here is not where I was born and raised. I grew up on the North Shore of Massachusetts, which is beachy, you know, it's on the coast. Here is kind of like woodsy, and weird things happen here. Mark was walking in the woods once and saw an orb. And he said this orb was trying to get him to follow it. And he was scared and didn't do it.
What color was it?
What color was it, Mark?
White. At first, I thought it was just kids playing with a flashlight. But then I got a little closer. I was curious about it. And then I realized it was leading me deep off the trail and into some pretty dangerous territory. And I just left. I was afraid of it.
You're making the point that where you live now and where you took the video from the screen door is an area where Mark has seen an orb and that it has a reputation of strange things happening.
Yes, because he walked to where we're talking about where he saw the orb. So it's in very close proximity.
Since 2011, I have received hundreds of reports to Earthfiles by email, text, phones, or hard mail about these strange, unexplained, loud, house-shaking booms or metallic sounds that have a lot of varieties, some like the one that we just heard, and so loud that some ear witnesses have compared the metallic, screeching, grinding, crashing sounds to trains colliding head-on at 100 miles an hour. And then there are the high-pitched frequencies that some ear witnesses say remind them and make them think of eerie trumpets in the sky. What are these haunting, unexplained sounds that have persisted around Earth in both hemispheres since 2011? Some whistleblowers say the strange sounds could be related to a non-human alien presence underground on Earth. If the ground-shaking sounds are coming from beneath our feet, why don't USGS seismometers always pick up the ground-shaking events that people have reported in so many parts of this planet? In my Earthfiles YouTube broadcast in the last 2 weeks of March, the farmer Tyler Jones from Gaston, Alabama, described his encounter with a tall, blonde, extraterrestrial male humanoid who had blue eyes, and who telepathically communicated to Tyler that the tall blonde civilization is so advanced that it now occupies 2 galaxies, the Milky Way and another. and that tall blondes can move matter objects with technologies that neutralize gravity. The tall blonde showed Tyler that technology that was black colored, handheld, that the tall blonde showed how they aimed these rods, they called anti-gravity rods, that were pointed to the pyramids and to the stones and the blocks and the pillars by the tall blondes so that they could easily build pyramids, obelisks, and other structures at the Giza site near modern-day Cairo, Egypt, with anti-gravity technology as he understood it. And yet, humans even today do not publicly have such anti-gravity technology. But maybe one of the big secrets from back engineering UFOs has been behind headlines like this IBM Thomas Watson Research Center press release dated April 18, 2011. A former IBM Research Center employee has contacted me to say that the floating cubes like this one seen in IBM photos back in 1986 and described as superconductors are perhaps examples of anti-gravity. This photograph was taken at the IBM Thomas J. Watson Research Center that is in Yorktown Heights, Westchester County, New York. In 1986, the press release photograph of a cube of black metal floating in the air over a round black substance was used to highlight what was described as an achievement that altered the landscape of physics when scientists observed superconductivity in an oxide material at a temperature of minus 397 degrees Fahrenheit, which was 50% warmer than was previously known. And 1 year later, those same scientists were awarded the 1987 Nobel Prize for Physics for their superconductivity achievement. Recently, a retired IBM electromechanical engineer, who I will call John Smith, contacted me with a photo of this IBM disk-shaped research that was done at the outstanding research center in Yorktown Heights, New York. And in his email, he suggested that a bigger IBM secret behind all of this could be anti-gravity, back engineered from UFOs. Now here is what John Smith wrote to me, quote, T.J. Watson Research Center, where I worked, 1986 to 1992. The building from the top down looks like a big C, and the scientists that worked at T.J. Watson were called IBM Fellows. When you walked in the front lobby, all of their pictures on the wall. They had specific rules of employment that only pertained to them. No set working hours. They could come and go as they pleased. No dress code for them, while we had to stick to the IBM white shirts and gray trousers. Only address them by their first name, and they would never look you in the eye, and you rarely saw them at functions like picnics. Well, the information the retired IBM electromechanical engineer told me is reinforced in this very important book, The Day After Roswell, that was copyrighted 1997 by U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso. I met Colonel Corso at the 50th anniversary of the July 1947 crashes at a large conference held in Roswell, New Mexico, the week of July 7th, 1997. Upon our handshake in introduction, he said to me, Linda Moulton Howe, I have read your books and seen your animal mutilation documentaries, and I want to know, how did you get so much classified information? And then he asked me to sit down with him for a long conversation. And one of the subjects he stressed was that he hand-carried extraterrestrial technologies retrieved from various UFO crashes to selected leaders of certain American corporations who signed agreements with General Arthur Trudeau, Colonel Corso's boss in the Pentagon. General Trudeau was handpicked in 1953 by General and President Dwight D. Eisenhower to be the first chief of the Army's Research and Development Command. His and Colonel Corso's greatest secrets were the ET technologies retrieved from crashed UFOs that General Trudeau wanted studied by the best American corporations without anyone knowing. And then, when they had figured out what the UFO technologies were and what they did, General Trudeau wanted them patented by American companies to keep the advanced technologies out of the hands of America's human enemies. General Trudeau also wanted to further develop the technologies for commercial applications that humanity could then benefit from, whether or not humans would ever be allowed to know the truth that lasers and night vision and fiber optics and magnetic propulsion and transistors and integrated circuits were actually back engineered from UFO crashes. And when Colonel Corso and I talked in Roswell at that 1997 conference event, he described how General Trudeau kept many of the ET technologies that they wanted to investigate in metal file drawers in General Trudeau's Pentagon office. Further, on page 115 of Colonel Corso's extremely important and historic book, The Day After Roswell, he wrote, quote, "Once I finished my report on the opportunities we could possibly derive from the extraterrestrial biological entities, also known as EBAs, and their craft, I turned my attention to compiling a short list of immediate opportunities I believed achievable by the Army's R&D Foreign Technology Division from a reverse engineering of items retrieved from the UFO crashes. Each of these ET artifacts, as a direct result of Army R&D's intervention, helped spawn an entire technological industry from which came new products and military weapons. Among the Roswell artifacts, there were unknown technologies to humans at the time that needed development, scheduling, or inquiries to our military scientific community. Here is a short and partial list of what Colonel Corso and General Trudeau wanted to develop. 1. Image intensifiers, which ultimately became night vision. 2. Fiber optics. 3. Supertenacity fibers, the silver metal that felt like cloth and could be wadded up into a tight ball and would spring back to its original shape without a wrinkle. 4. Lasers. 5. Molecular alignment metallic alloys. 6. Integrated circuits and micro miniaturization of logic boards. 7. HARP, High Altitude Research Project. 8. Project Horizon, building a moon base on Earth's moon. 9. Portable atomic generators for ion propulsion drive. 10. Irradiated food. 11. Third brain guidance systems, referring to the extraterrestrial biological entity headbands that linked the ET humanoids directly to the craft's artificial intelligence. 12. Particle beams like Star Wars anti-missile energy weapons. 13. Electromagnetic propulsion systems. Colonel Corso then gives his explanation for why the long silence in American history since World War II about the alien presence, and does so on page 121, quote, "These creatures controlled our night skies, observing us with image-intensifying night vision with an ease that we didn't enjoy until we had back-engineered the ET technology and deployed our own night viewing goggles years later and leveled the playing field against them. To the EBAs, we were prey, and we knew they were monitoring our defenses, surveilling the aircraft we scrambled to chase them, and hovering above the experimental satellites we launched. We could see them with our radar. I had seen them on our scopes with my own eyes, and we knew their presence was not benign," close quote. He goes on, the extraterrestrial biological entities had an advantage over us that we could not overcome unless we acquired the technological ability to put up enough of a defense to make their cost too high to engage in any large-scale warfare. Not only was their advantage over us what forced us to scrape whatever technology we could off the edge of our encounters with them, it was one of the many factors that forced us into a silence about the alien presence. The government's reasoning was this: if there was no public enemy, meaning no public awareness of the ETs and their threats, then there would be no pressure from the public to do anything about the alien presence. So we in the military and intelligence simply denied all extraterrestrial activity because no aliens meant no military responsibility to counter their threat, close quote. General Nathan Twining talked about Nikola Tesla because the scientists who have been examining the damaged UFO craft described the craft must be converting an electromagnetic field into an anti-gravity field for the alien pilots inside the craft. It was as if gravity was being folded around the outside of the magnetic wave that enveloped the craft, and therefore no inertial forces. The craft could do 90-degree angle turns and stop instantly and then take off vertically straight up from the ground to outer space in a couple of seconds. Now, let's hear retired IBM electromechanical engineer John Smith, who worked at this IBM T.J. Watson Research Center in Yorktown Heights, New York, in 1986 to about 1992.
I needed the secret clearance to work at IBM Watson. Then I was allowed to go into labs and work on the experiments. If you remember back in the 80s, IBM used to show a picture of the cube floating in the air, and they used to call it superconductors. So most of the engineers knew this, and I got friendly with one, and he said, that has nothing to do with superconductors. It has to do with anti-gravity.
Anti-gravity?
And a few years ago, I saw a picture of a piece of metal that you had.
Yeah, bismuth, magnesium, zinc.
And it looks like a piece of metal floating in the air in our superconductor picture. If you Google it, superconductor IBM, when I saw that picture on your website, that looks like the cube that was floating in the superconductor. And any time I walked into that room, I had to sign a log, and I had to use my handprint. You know, when I first started to work at IBM Watson, I was a contractor. I was an electromechanical designer, and they said, we'd like you to do other work here in these other labs, and you need clearance to get into the lab. So, you know, I had to get that clearance, and that was thumbprints and all kinds of things to be certified for that. So the big deal was then everybody come see the floating cube. And I was in that lab a lot because I had to put up barriers, design barriers, for the experiments so people wouldn't get injured if they got too close to it because it was so cold. You know, you had to go in that room. I hated it because it was so cold in there all the time. And they said, hey, watch this. And this guy had this cube, and he just dropped it in the air over this. It looked like another bigger cube, and it floated right over it. They called it a superconductor. It was going to revolutionize the way that electricity is distributed. Like, you wouldn't see wires anymore. You would have superconductors, and you notice none of that ever happened, and they stopped talking about all the superconductors maybe a couple months after I saw those pictures. It just all went away. The engineers were saying it was anti-gravity. Everybody saw the picture, and they're like, uh-oh, we don't talk about this anymore.
And what did they do?
I remember they would have different size pieces of metal, and they would just float them over this superconductor, which I never saw any wires going to. It was just a piece of metal on this really, really cold table, and then another piece of metal dropped over it. And it would just float in the air.
Did the metal on the table in the cold air look the same as the one that was dropped above it and floated?
To me, it was black. It was not the same color as the metal that was, floating.
In the layered bismuth magnesium zinc material that came off the bottom of a wedge-shaped UFO in the late 1940s that I have investigated for so long, bismuth is black in that layered piece of metal.
Okay. Nobody ever told me what kind of metal it was.
And did you ever have a discussion with anyone, even over a beer, about the source of the metal that could cause the one above it to float coming from some kind of UFO crash?
I knew one of the electrical engineers that worked on the project very well. I just heard, the what do you call it, water cooler talk about the anti-gravity stuff.
Right. Now, in contacting me with all of the decades of my context for doing investigations being UFOs, ETs, government cover-ups, policies of denial, while they're back engineering extraterrestrial technology, I'm assuming now in 2021 that you would reach out to me because of all this work I have been doing.
Yeah, and IBM wasn't the only place I had a secret clearance and saw things. So I've seen things in engineering that I don't think that we could really come up with.
Right. Where?
I worked at another place, GRS Naval Controls.
GRS Naval Control. What does GRS stand for?
GRS is the initials of the primary owner of the company. It's an Italian company.
Where is that based?
Danbury, Connecticut.
So what did you see and discuss at GRS?
Okay. At GRS, we made all the controls for the nuclear reactors and submarines. And I was supervisor of the drafting and design department. So one particular meeting, we were talking about some controls, and I said, geez, who comes up with these things? This is really cool. It's very intense engineering. And this other guy in the meeting, he just looked at me and he pointed towards the ceiling with one finger. And I said, what's that supposed to mean? And he goes, it can mean whatever you want it to mean.
But you knew that that is a human signal for UFOs and other life in the universe.
Yeah, it's exactly. I never said another word about it again, but I was just like, damn,
Right. What was the object or the material that you were referring to and that he put his finger up to the sky? What was it supposed to do?
It was the design of the electronics within the control and what the electronics had to monitor within the nuclear reactor. It just was so mind-boggling what that piece of software and engineering and electronics has to do. And, I was like, geez, who comes up with this stuff? That's when he did that.
And was the control having the ability to do analysis at the molecular level?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. I've encountered their control on atoms and molecules is beyond human understanding.
Yeah, and you have to think about how many nuclear reactors are out there under the sea right now. We worry about the big ones on the land. Just think about all those out there. But, certainly in my engineering background, I saw many things and heard things that made me think more than likely I saw something that wasn't man-made.
What is your bottom line on the concept of a lot of advanced other life in this universe that interacts with this planet and the solar system?
Yeah. I have a very strong opinion on this, and my opinion simply, a lot of information is being withheld from us. It's been a conspiracy for as long as I think we've been on this planet with organized governments to keep the information from us. And I'm starting to get the feeling that so many people now are thinking about this and want to hear the truth, that governments are very slowly starting to let the real information out. We're getting little dribs and drabs recently. So my hope is the truth comes out, because things that I've seen myself and meetings and engineering that I've seen, there's no way in heck that humans came up with,
Right.
It's just that simple. Somebody had to help us with this. I don't understand why they just won't tell us. I don't know. To an engineer, it makes sense because it would explain a lot of things
Right.
that I want answers to, but to hold it back, it's crazy.
And the neutralizing gravity is the Holy Grail.
Yeah, that's proof that somebody was helping.
the full name of DRS is Leonardo DRS Naval Power Systems in Danbury, Connecticut. It is the premier supplier of instrumentation and control systems for critical applications on U.S. Navy ships, and it is leader in shipboard hydraulic to electric actuation conversion solutions. And this is the context of what John Smith, he had exposure at IBM and in DRS. And I wanted tonight to try something that it may be, in a sense, you can tell me if you feel this was valuable, because what I wanted to get across with Tyler Jones, his experience with the tall blonde type was positive for him, and he had a new understanding that there could be tall blondes that had some war over us or other things, and that they could be in different groups fighting each other and look the same. And in this particular experience, it wasn't any direct interaction with non-humans, but it was exposure to information that related very much to the important work that Twining and Colonel Corso and others had been doing in Washington, in which they had concluded that there was a threat component. And now in 2021, as the 180-day countdown is going to, what will the Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence tell us, if anything, about advanced aerial threats and foreign adversaries as requested in the COVID funding bill? Will we be able to look into some of the books, some of the history, and now start getting maybe a clearer bird's eye view of the evolution of perceived agendas, how technology was being back engineered? It was known to only the corporations that the Pentagon had deals with, which then becomes self-perpetuating, because working on anything that was extraterrestrial automatically put it in a classification where it's totally off limits to any access. And that means then, since World War II, there is a kind of inertia in corporations that would get a contract under strict policies of you don't talk about it, no one knows, and you hide research evolution, you hide it behind other technologies that you're making public. And then you get to a point where I've heard this, at least from some people who have been in, let's say, very rigid and extremely strict secret programs. And they say that it becomes self-defeating after a while, that you get this feedback system that the only people that are allowed to do X, Y, and Z are in these contracts that keep perpetuating because the classification has been so severe. And one of the things that I would like to try as we evolve in the Earthfiles YouTube channel is occasionally to lift out of a book like Colonel Corso's. I think this is one of the most important books that you could read. He had the first-hand 1950s period where he was working with General Trudeau, who was trusted by, originally who appointed him was General and then President Eisenhower. And they had the shared experience of coming out of the Army in World War II. General Eisenhower, General Trudeau, who had a PhD in chemistry. General Trudeau was a very, very smart man. And he had handpicked Colonel Corso. Are there perspectives about threats? Are they time-bound because of what was happening in the 50s? Or is the work that Colonel Corso and others have left, is it legitimately valuable to 2021 in order to understand what could be a threat and what could be an ally? And that in the way some of these men in the past have described it, and fits in with what Tyler had said, is you could have the same looking species doing two opposite approaches to Earth and to humans. While they fight each other, we would be caught in the middle. Would that apply to now, in this decade? So perhaps there's going to be more positive insights depending upon how much we are told in terms of facts. And that's what I keep fighting for. Is I would like to see, of course, everything, the good, the bad, the neutral. I think it should all come out. And so did Tyler Jones, so did John Smith, a lot of the people who have been exposed to these programs, and then they finally get out. They've always expressed a kind of frustration. Why can't the whole world be told the truth? So tonight, this has gone on longer into the Q&A time, but I felt that it was really valuable to bring this up through the pivot of John Smith and Colonel Corso, and laying out some things, and hope you will read The Day After Roswell, and that you will read Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1 and 2 of my work, because all of these aspects of what are we dealing with in the universe, in this galaxy, in this neck of the woods, and in some, unless the power brokers tell us, we are left to try to keep evolving on our own through the help of people like John Smith and Tyler Jones and Spartan 1 and 2. And I hope that you all have found this valuable tonight, because not everybody has read the important work of Colonel Corso. And the whistleblower discussions for me themselves, I think of them as dots adding up on a painting, that each color dot, no matter what they're depicting, keeps painting a bigger and bigger picture. And I hope that I can share making the pointillisme of all of these contradictory, conflicting, and eventually, let's hope, some positive information about this universe and what's in it and our relationship to it. So with that, dear Ian, what kind of comments and questions do we have tonight?
Hi, Linda. Thank you again. That was a wonderful report that you gave us, and a brilliant interview that was recorded. The audience are very appreciative. We've got a very long list, I'm afraid, today. I've had to turn the page for the super chats, but I'll just go through it as quickly as I can, just so that we can thank everyone.
Thank you so much.
First of all, sorry, Linda.
So go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Moonbird, Janet Clark, Bal Horse, Jeffrey Rizzo, Judy Pfeiffer, Paula Eaton, Trent Locke, Trisha May, Minnesota Folk, Jenna McHugh, Private, Lila Neep, Carol Ann, Warren Schooler, Dave Goodrich, Jenny Grider, Knife Guy, Caroline Barnett, Holger Dansk, Sonia Rajwans, Back to Constitution, TNC, Carl Balsamer, and Jeffrey Wynn.
Oh, wow. Not only am I clapping, but Dear Chocolate stood up. so
I think
thank you.
Recognizing some of those names.
So thank you all so much. And for those of you who are here, Moonbird, thank you. so much for your long and wonderful support. I can't thank you enough because it sure helps me to do this work. And I so appreciate those of you who are coming to the Earthfiles YouTube channel, your emails, your hard letters, your texts, the value and importance of understanding this world through you, through so many people that are interacting with the phenomena is extreme value to me as well, and I will bring as much as I can here. So thank you so much. And now, Ian, what about a first question?
Yeah, I'm just going to add NC Genie to that, who just jumped in at the last minute.
Okay.
Didn't quite make it on the list.
Hello.
First of all, it's not a question, Linda, but it's a comment. And this person in the chat says, please tell Linda that the exact same metallic bending sound happened in Kentucky. The phone video doesn't do it justice. It's massive, like 360 surround sound, huge metal bending.
Can I have a date, a time? Can the person who has firsthand experience email me at earthfiles@earthfiles.com? If you are a firsthand ear witness, I would like very much to talk with you about it. I have heard other recordings of what I consider to be somewhere between the trumpets and the strange metallic that if in one case went on for 20 or 30 minutes in Texas about 7 years ago, I think. They are fewer and far between than the boom reports, but the one thing that would be so valuable, and we could keep using the Earthfiles YouTube Wednesday nights to share them, are when you get a good recording of whichever it is, booms on the security camera, the metallics and the trumpets on a cell phone, get them to me. I'm also working with some people who have been doing some analysis on the audio, and we can try to make this like a regular section if we got date, time, latitude, longitude, people who are willing to go on the record with who they are, where they live, and we can make our own archive. And that would be extremely valuable to hear, or I hope hear, what you have just described as a long recording in that kind of metallic, eerie sound. Is that possible, Ian, to do?
Yes, I've already reached out to that person
Good.
in the chat, but I'll echo what you say. Everyone, please keep sending in any reports that you have, and if possible, grab a phone like Linda did. That was fantastic. The report from Linda this morning, that we broadcast today.
Yes, and Linda in Framingham, thank you so much. She is a regular watcher of our show, and she happened to be there with her cell phone when that strange sound occurred. And her boyfriend also got a shorter slice of it and put it on Facebook. And this is so helpful because she got in touch with us, Ian, and that's what we need to keep generating what is happening currently. So thank you, and onward to whatever is now another phenomenon that you all would like to know about.
Okay, Linda, here's the question. If we lump extraterrestrials and interdimensional entities together, how would we differentiate between the two phenomena, extraterrestrial and interdimensional entities?
That is an excellent question. What first came to me is frequency and density. There are a lot of arguments that I have read in various things, whether they were at conferences or whether they're emerging in books more and more, that when people say that they wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, a dark figure is by the side of the bed, or they see a beam of light coming through the bedroom window, but they don't see anything attached. Or recently, this is a fascinating description from somebody who is very grounded. They said that they waked like it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And on, you know how you can have decoration pillows, not the pillow you're sleeping on, but a throw pillow that you would put on when you make your bed. And that a throw pillow was here, like in the middle of like a king-size bed. And the person said, just eyes open, absolutely like beta consciousness out of, she thought was sound sleep. And on the surface of the throw pillow were, the way she described it was, you know when you see sun coming down through water, and the water may be like in a pool, maybe no more than 3 or 4 feet deep, and you see the water starts the glitter of the sun, and that the pattern of all of the glitter seemed to be doing this all over the surface of this pillow. Bright white, pure white, and every window is covered. Every window, the shade is down. And she said, I don't understand. There's nothing coming through the windows. I'm in a dark room, but on that pillow, and only on the pillow, white, vivid light. And it moved for approximately, she thought, half a minute or so. Well, if you take that and beams and dark figures and I'm going to put the little grays in a different category. It is possible, in answer to your question, what is the difference? Planck's constant determines in this universe what the separation is between the atomic particles that make up matter, quarks and photons, all of it in our matter. If the dimension around us, we might have a dimension that wraps this universe. There might be 9 universes, 9 dimensions. And in each dimension, let's say there is a different Planck's constant. And that the Planck constant, let's say in the universe that may wrap around this one, when it comes into this matter universe with the frequencies here of the quarks and the atoms and the molecules and the subatomic particles, it can interact only to X degree. And then we see that penetration as light, beams, dark things. And if you went to another dimension, it could be completely different. And I'm only using this not as this is a firm anything. It's that when you take what people report and then you look at it through the lens of other dimensions, and that it seems to me that we are truly evolving in more and more physics papers all the time, that this universe is one of multiple universes, that there are multiple dimensions, multiple timelines, that everything is layers of frequencies. That's the way I look at it. Everything is layers of frequencies. And if you come back to that analogy that I used 2 or 3 years ago, when the first time that we went live in the Earthfiles YouTube channel, somebody asked a similar question, and I was using the piano keyboard, 88 keys, 88 different frequencies. When you move from key to key, you're moving frequency. And if you took that 88 key, white and black, of a keyboard, and you started thinking about the giant cosmos that may have multiple universes in it, and that the cosmos is the big keyboard, and that each dimension, each universe, is one of those frequencies on the keyboard. I've always, somehow, that has helped me to think about it. And ultimately, if you go to one of the most profound mysteries, what happens at the moment of death? You're in this matter form that is ruled by Planck's constant and other laws, but that you contain a soul that may operate on multiple frequencies, so that when the matter container in, let's say that this particular universe is middle C, the matter holding that particular soul, that frequency ends its vibration. But that the soul, the animating spirit, does not. That it is a piece of a fabric that in some schools would say goes on infinitely. And it would transition then to another dimension, to another frequency, and somehow there is a mechanism in which the infinite soul penetrates over and over again different frequency containers. Humans on Earth is just one. So take that, start applying it to what is being reported around this planet in everything, ghosts, beams, those white, watery sun reflections. I'm fascinated by that. I'd be curious if any of you have ever heard of such a description in a dark room, all the windows covered, that for a half a minute that there could be bright white lights on a pillow, and that the person would wake up with no grogginess, just open up, and that's what they would be seeing. One person that I talked about said that might be in the category of angelic presence, beings of light. But how does it work? I find these mysteries exciting, and I hope that this year we're going to start breaking through some of the cement that this planet has been in, or humans have been in, for the last 45,000 years, and that the cement will start breaking so that we can be told that we're not alone in this universe, and then discussions like this about all of these mysteries would be open forum and important to everyone. So thank you. Ian, what about one more question?
Well, Linda, the questions on the soul are a very, very deep subject that we need to explore a little bit later on. I don't think we can go into any of those questions again tonight. That's something that we really need to return to. It's sparked a lot of interest.
Yeah, and you'll send me those questions, and I will try to make an upcoming program where I will focus on this mystery of the soul's relationship to frequencies and matter. Go ahead.
I do have another question, though, relating to anti-gravity devices. People are referencing the report that you did into the Isaac Carrot documents.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything to substantiate or corroborate the anti-gravity devices with those documents?
In terms of Isaac, and in terms of what was put at Earthfiles and the Coast to Coast websites, because that's who Isaac sent material to me and to Coast, and we posted everything that he sent. Within 2 weeks, as I recall, back at around 2007-8 time period, I received a really important email from a currently working professor in a university in the California area in Palo Alto, a region, where Isaac said that the CARET, commercial application, research application technology, where it was like what Colonel Corso described. They were trying to take what they were receiving in terms of extraterrestrial technology. It was an underground operation. And developing it so that it could be applied commercially for humanity on the planet. CARET, the CARET document. And it included photographs. I remember there were two, I think, in which it was described that neutralizing gravity, that there was a gravitational control in two of the photographs, and how there was a relationship between the symbols and the patterns on any given piece of technology in which the frequency related to the anti-gravity was somehow also related to the symbols. And the long email that came to me from the man working said to me, I know that what this man Isaac has communicated to you is true. I know the facility. And gave me other sentences, which I also then shared with some other people at the time who felt that this was, in fact, a valid corroboration of the location and working on extraterrestrial technology. But the person would not allow any kind of an interview, any kind of a meeting. I got that much. Now, I know that's sort of slim. When it comes to proof, it's a whole other ball of wax. But in this difficult, huge, challenging area of what kind of other intelligences are in this universe with us, what is the truth about the evolution of life on this planet in relationship to the other intelligences, genetic manipulation to create all kinds of life forms, and that we are one. All of it that comes to us in pieces. What we need is the full platter with all the proof and all the physical technologies and all of the, whether it's documents or whatever has been absorbed by the government. If we could just get onto the same square of facts that were true about the history of the Earth, us, ETs, wars, other planets, and beyond. Wow, what a difference it would all be. Well, each Wednesday, I keep struggling to add another dot, another dot, another dot. And for those of you who like pointillism paintings, the dots get bigger and they take on structure and design, and pretty soon you put a pointillism across the room and you see sun coming through a tree, and there is a girl in a pinafore who is bending over watering flowers, and from afar you see the whole painting. But when you move up to it, you start seeing nothing but dots of color. Strange metaphor, but it's sort of the way all of us humans are in this day in relationship to what kind of universe are we in, what kind of non-humans interact with us, why does the government feel that there is a threat, will they tell us the truth, and if not, we have each other to keep trying to communicate what happens to you, to others, and coming here every Wednesday night and sharing. I really love doing this with you. I am so happy we broke through 170,000 because that means summer solstice. We're going to hit that 175,000 mark with your help. And the reason why this is exciting to me is because it means that there really are a lot of people who want to know facts and the truth. Thank you. I'll see you next week. I love you.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.